Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society. My name is Brian. My pronouns are he, him. I am a member of this congregation. One of the ways that I serve this congregation is as a worship associate. Today, I am joined by one of our ministers, the Reverend Kelly Asprooth-Jacksoon, and the worship team of Linda Warren, Drew Collins, and Daniel Carnes. Special thanks this morning to everyone volunteering as greeters, ushers, hospitality providers, sound tech, and lay ministers. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you are visiting us today, welcome. We're very glad you're with us today. If you would like more information about First Unitarian Society, please stop by the welcome table that's on the main floor to your left as you leave. Everyone is also welcome to join us for coffee hour after the service, also in the Commons. There's a lot of great stuff happening in the Commons. Our Healthy Congregations team will also be there if you have any questions, concerns, ideas that you would like to talk through. They will be at the round tables. And for those of us connecting virtually today, we're very glad you're with us as well. We hope that you will be able to take a moment and watch the announcement slides after today's service to learn more about upcoming programs and activities. Today we have a special announcement from our Bibleodian class.
Good morning. Fantastic. My name is Tamara Brognano. I am one of a team of 4 teachers that teaches our Bibleodian class on Sunday mornings. And I am here along with some of my marvelous students to encourage you to consider volunteering as a teacher next year in our Children's Religious Exploration Program. So let me first of all have our students introduce themselves.
I'm Adeline.
I'm Brennan. I'm Lucy.
All right, so Adeline, Brennan, and Lucy are going to tell you why you should want to be a teacher next year.
I think you should want to teach Sunday school next year because you only have to teach 2 times a month, but you'll probably want to teach more because we're really fun kids.
Also, the lessons are all prepared for you, so they are super easy to teach, and you don't have to be an expert or professional teacher to do this.
You get to spend time with the awesome kids here at FUS, and you get to give back to this community by sharing your time and energy with our youngest folks.
You're convinced, right? Absolutely, yes. Give it up for these folks. So my thanks to Adeline, Brennan, and Lucy for helping me out this morning. If you're interested in learning more about what it means to be a teacher and what it involves, I will be out in the Commons after the service with additional information and treats as an added inducement. If you come and talk to me and ask a question, I have cookies and brownies and possibly some donuts, depending on how many these guys consume. Thank you.
And now I invite you to join me in a moment of silence, to center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time as we join together once again in community. Welcome all who seek renewal in a weary world.
Welcome all who come with love and energy to share.
Welcome to those who worry for the future.
Welcome each one who is grateful for today.
Know that in this place, you are not alone.
In community, we share our strength with one another, and we keep the flame of love burning bright.
Know that in this place, responsibility is shared.
Here, tradition holds us. Ancestors shine a light from the past.
Here, the young lift their bright faces and beckon us onward.
Take my hand, and we can go on together. And now I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do, and join me in the words of aspiration for the kindling of our chalice flame. May the flame of this chalice, the symbol of our faith, connect us to all who have come before us, all who are with us in body and spirit, and all who are yet to come into being. May it serve as a reminder of our unity and connection across all time and space. And now I invite you to turn to those around you and greet each other with signs of love and peace.
I now invite you to sing with me our opening hymn, number 298 in the Gray Hymnal, Wake Now My Senses.
Okay, I'd like to invite anybody forward now who would like to come up here and share a story with me this morning. Hi. Good morning. Oh. Hello. Come on down. It's good to see you. So I have one of my favorite types of stories to tell you today. This is one of those stories that tries to imagine. I'm going to focus on the imagine part because I don't want to proceed with the premise that this is a scientifically accurate story, right? But it tries to imagine how we can explain how things already are. So it's a story about how things got to be the way that they are. And this story, this particular story, tries to explain, why is the sky so far away? Was that a question that you already had? No? Yeah? You were wondering about that? Okay, good. Well, here we're going to have a story about that, so that's good. Yes, Chloe. Okay, the sky is everywhere that is not the ground. Well, it's not this, right? So that's, you're arguing for a very maximalist view of the sky. Okay. Well, this story starts out with a very maximalist view of the sky, because this story, which comes originally from Nigeria, which is a country in West Africa, this story says a long time ago, the sky was a lot closer to the earth than it is now. In fact, it was so close that whoever you were, however tall you were, right? Someone as tall as me, someone as tall as you, you couldn't just reach out and touch the cloud. You could reach up and you could grab the sky, and you could grab a piece of the sky and pull it down. And you could eat it. Yes, Cleo. Ah, yes. So again, our scientific assessment of the reality of this story is wanting, right? We are finding this to not be a very empirically accurate description of the world as it is. I agree with you in your assessment, by the way. So, but we are going to imagine a world in which this story is true, even though I grant you that it is not. How about that? Yes? Clouds are made out of water vapor. That's very true. So I'm not even actually talking about clouds, I'm talking about the sky itself, right? When you look up at the sky, you see this field of blue, or, gray sometimes, but blue some of the time as well. Now, again, scientifically speaking, that is a result of the way that the atmosphere interacts with light from the sun. It has to do with both rain, water droplets in the atmosphere, but also the distortion of light caused by the pocket of air that envelops the earth. Yes, all of that is true, but in this story, one more time, we are imagining a world in which the sky is much lower to the ground and you can eat it. And you know what? It tasted great. It tasted like whatever you wanted it to taste like. So you could have a piece of sky pie on the brain this morning, but you get the idea. There are other examples besides pies. Yes?
Then space might have been so close too.
Oh, you're concerned about the distance to space. Yes, because scientifically informed hypotheticals. In this story, people ate the sky. That's part of the premise of the story. In this story, people ate the sky. And that went pretty well for a long time. But there was a problem where people would take more of the sky than they were going to eat. And the sky was bothered by this. Oh, you didn't know the sky's a character in this story, too. So the sky said, look, I don't mind that you take enough to eat. I want you to be happy and well-fed, but I don't want you to take more than you need. More than you're going to eat. Then you're just going to leave chunks of me on the ground going to waste. So if you don't stop doing that, I'm going to have to go further away. And people were very concerned about this, and they listened to the sky for a while. And then one day, there was a big party and a big feast. And there were a whole bunch of different platters of different types of sky prepared different ways. There were deep-fried sky and braised sky and baked sky and fricasseed sky and sous vide sky, all sorts of different ways of eating delicious sky. And everybody ate until they were so full they couldn't eat anymore. And on the way home, one of the people who was at that party, she wasn't hungry, but she was thinking about one of the dishes that she had and how good it would taste if she had it again. And so she reached out and she plucked a big piece out of the sky, and she took one bite and thought, oh yes, that's exactly the flavor I wanted to taste again. And she couldn't eat anymore. Now she had this big bundle of sky that she knew she couldn't finish because she was too full. And that made her very worried about upsetting the sky, about, what the sky told people not to do. So she took it home to her family and asked them for help in finishing it so it wouldn't go to waste. But her husband had just done basically the same thing earlier that day, and he had a whole backpack full of leftover sky he was trying to figure out what he was going to do with. And her son had a bunch under his bed that he was trying to figure out what he was going to do with. And basically, she couldn't solve the problem. None of them could. And the sky found out. Yes.
At the clouds taste like cotton candy.
The clouds taste like cotton candy. I think it's a wonderful idea for what clouds could taste like if in the situation where we could eat clouds. So the sky said, all right, that's it. I'm going away. And it went all the way up to where it is now, right? In between us and space, just like our scientifically accurate view of the cosmos. This problem has been resolved. No longer people are eating sky. Okay, things are sort of back to normal now. But this is a problem for the people left on Earth because they've just been eating sky this whole time. And they said, what are we going to do? Well, so,
Extra sky.
well, what are they going to do?
They had the weight of sky.
They had all the...
They eat all
Oh, they could just eat the leftovers is what you're saying. Oh, okay, yeah.
rhubarb pie
Yeah.
instead of eating strawberry rhubarb pie flavored stuff.
Ah, yeah, so in order to make the strawberry rhubarb pie, which is an excellent thing to make, by the way, I recommend it, in order to do that, you have to, what do you need to do? You need to get the ingredients for that. They didn't know how to do that yet, but the sky said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to send rain, and I'm going to let light through so that the sun can shine on things, and things will grow on the earth, things that are good to eat. But you are going to have to do some work now. You're going to have to work to grow those things, harvest those things, pick them, plant them, yeah, make them into the things you need to make food out of, and then make them into food. Yeah. So people still had things to eat, but it wasn't easy the way that it had been before, and now they had to work together in order to do it. So, I've told you this story. We've done a great job exploring it together. What do you think is the lesson we should take from this story? Leo?
Don't eat the sky.
Don't eat the sky. Okay. That's one. Yes?
If you eat the sky, it is not solid, but it is flavored water.
Okay, the sky is flavored water. That's a lesson. Yes?
Take as much as you need, not too much.
Take as much as you need, but not too much. I like that lesson. I like it a lot. You got another one?
This is also just a fact. So,
Oh.
a plane can fly through the sky, proving that the sky is not solid, so you cannot rip it apart.
Ah, yes. All right. So let us not take the lesson away from this that the sky is solid or edible. That's not a good conclusion to make. Here's another lesson that occurs to me, which is that when everybody could eat the sky, everybody had enough to eat, which was very good. It's good for people to have enough to eat. But everybody could just reach out and pluck the sky out for themselves, and no one had to work together, no one had to cooperate, no one had to share, right? They could all just take it for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's
If
part.
they did share, then they would have lots of leftovers. Lots of them.
And the leftovers were part of the problem, right? So, in this new situation where people have to work, the situation that we actually live in, where people have to work,
Together.
they have to work together in order to grow things and make food. And that means that they don't automatically just think about themselves. They have an opportunity.
Plants don't just grow like you put a seed in it
Right.
and it grows. That isn't the same.
It's an opportunity to think about other people. Thank you for listening to my story. I've had such fun talking with you about it. Let's go to your classes now.
Oh, you can make the world so bright, and you can turn the day from night, and share your gifts and spread your light, and learn what you know. Our middle hymn today is Building Bridges. Let's rise in body and/or in spirit. We're going to sing this as a round. We'll sing it 2 times through the melody all together, so that if you aren't familiar with it, hopefully you will be by the end of that. And then we'll sing it 2 more times again, but as a round. So the folks on my left will start, and then I'll bring you in over here, and you'll follow. When you get to the end, go back to the beginning. When you get to the end again, people on my left, just sing the last line one more time, and we'll meet up, okay? Building bridges.
It takes many different moments strung together to make a journey. Even the short ones can have struggles and challenges. Times when we speed on forward and times when we dawdle after. Times to notice, times to remember, times to leave behind, and times to rest. Those can be quite lovely, but in a busy world, we don't always have the opportunity to quiet our bodies and our thoughts all at once, even when we really need to. So now, to encourage and support each other in our own personal practice of respite and pause, let us spend this moment together, resting in reverent quiet. Amen. Separateness is an illusion. Being in the universe means being a part of the universe, and the whole of our universe is interdependent and interconnected. This is not the only insight associated with our tradition as Unitarian Universalists, but it is a crucial one, and it has been articulated in different ways by various of us at different times. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote about the oversoul, a larger spiritual reality that, to his understanding, linked all people across time and space. The Unitarian Universalist minister and historian David Bumbaugh wrote a blessing some years ago that tried to summarize this insight from his perspective. He wrote, "We are here dedicated to the proposition that beneath all our differences and behind all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and that binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity. The seventh principle of the Unitarian Universalist Association currently reads, "We covenant to affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part." And, if approved by a supermajority of delegates to the General Assembly this June, the covenant of our association will name interdependence as one of our 7 shared values, describing the implications of that value with these sentences. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Now, I'm giving you all of this up front so that you know what my message is to you at the outset today. We are all connected. That much simply is. Now, all that remains is to justify that truth a bit and to consider what we ought to do once having accepted it. So, 550 years ago or so, in northwest India, in the city of Varanasi, there lived a mystical poet and prophet named Kabir. Most major religious figures are thought of as champions for their particular faith. The prophet Isaiah as a proponent of Judaism, for instance. St. Francis as an exemplar of Christianity. Kabir is notable, however, because during his life, and still today, he is claimed by at least 2 different religious groups, and actually there's a dark horse third as well. For a spiritual poet who lived and wrote in the 15th century in India, his tone, which mixes insight and insult very freely, is far less lofty than you might expect. At times, he comes across with less of the transcendent wonder of a saint and more of the gritty crassness of a modern comedian, a spiritual George Carlin of sorts. He lived in a place and a time that was shaped by the relationships and often divisions between Muslims and Hindus. Kabir won popularity and acclaim in part through the stinging, sarcastic criticism of both groups that he wove into his religious poetry. Vedas, Puranas, these are the holy texts of Hinduism. Why read them? Kabir asked. It is like loading a donkey with sandalwood. Islam, like Judaism, requires circumcision in men. And so Kabir asked the pointed question, if God wanted me to be a Muslim, why didn't God make the incision? Kabir was a critic, but that criticism came from his passionate, mystical spirituality. He was a weaver by trade, but it is said that he would only occasionally make it to the market to sell the produce of his loom. Often he would give the cloth away to the poor or the destitute before he could sell it for himself. The religion that he professed had no name, no text, not even a clear sense of form or practice, just a persistent love for the divine and a willingness to follow that into acts of kindness for others, even when that might seem foolish or dangerous. In one of his poems, he describes his God through the metaphor of his own profession. That master weaver whose skills are beyond our knowing, has stretched his warp through the world. He has fastened his loom between earth and sky, where the shuttlecocks are the sun and the moon. He fills the shuttle with the thread of easy spontaneity and weaves an endless pattern. But now, says Kabir, that weaver, he breaks apart his loom and tangles the thread in thread. The poet's words speak to a beautiful wholeness underlying existence, its strands woven together perfectly by the motions of sun and moon, guided by a masterful and unseen hand. But it is also a world that is far more jumbled and knotted and complicated than any mortal cloth could be. The loom is broken apart, the threads all tangled together. Somehow still, the wholeness remains. Kabir's challenge to unpopular religious conventions, in particular the caste system, and his call for spiritual unity to replace Hindu and Muslim conflict, made him a celebrity in his own lifetime. In one of the mythic stories associated with the poet, after Kabir died, two groups came to claim his body, one Muslim and one Hindu. Muslim religious custom dictates that a body should be buried in the first day after death, while Hinduism does not condone burial at all, requiring cremation instead. Disagreement over who should have the right to give this man their preferred sort of funeral led to an argument led to quarrel, and so the two mobs began a bloody brawl. Somewhere in the midst of the fighting, the body of the saint, it is said, disappeared, leaving behind two piles of fresh flower blossoms in its place. The struggle did not end until Kabir's disembodied voice spoke up and silenced the crowds. It announced that each of them could now take one of those two piles of flowers, one for the Hindus to burn and the other for the Muslims to bury. Kabir was neither the first nor the last religious thinker to emphasize divine unity over sectarian division. It is a strand that has run through human religious thought, perhaps for as long as there have existed formal divisions between religious groups. The impulse for one group to exclude and persecute all others, claiming a monopoly on spiritual truth for themselves, is a powerful one. It has done and continues to do much harm in the world. But still, the spirit of something well past mere tolerance, a sense of shared sameness, a curiosity about other groups, manages to endure. In the Christian tradition, which emphasizes the parenthood of God, that view unites humankind in the understanding that we are all children of the same source. The Jewish tradition is a bit more varied in its metaphors. The framework of parent and child is there too, but also of sovereign and subject, and defender or liberator on one hand, and humanity as those being defended or liberated or expecting to be so. Again, some version of most of these frameworks also appears in Islam, though that tradition has a particular resistance to the idea of God as a father, while also emphasizing the understanding of God as a friend or even as a lover. All of these are relational metaphors. Humanity is united by the universality of each individual's relationship to God, whatever that particular relationship might be. Further variations of this can be found in other traditions as well. Certain sects of Hinduism, for instance, hold that the entire purpose of the universe itself is simply for living beings to be courted by the divine in a playful, adventurous way, specifically compared to the intense infatuation of those who have never loved before. For those who experience God as a self-evident reality of the existence that we share, this unification is just as self-evident. But, of course, not all of us experience existence that way. That is, when we look out on the universe with awe and wonder, we may find inspiration or purpose, but not something that makes sense to us as a being, to be related to in any of the ways that one person relates to another person. Nevertheless, there remain at least two other realities that unite us. And the next of these is meaning. Our faith as Unitarian Universalists affirms that no one religious tradition has a monopoly on the truth. In fact, it's often the case that one faith is holding Atlantic Avenue, and another tradition has Ventnor Avenue, and a third one has Marvin Gardens, so that the only way that anyone's going to get to build some houses is by starting to work together. Now, that was an overextended board game metaphor, for those of you who missed it. Here's maybe a little bit more accessible one. It's a bit like soup. There are many different types of soup in the world: a sharp French onion, a hearty three-bean chili, a chilled gazpacho. Those are all very different eating experiences. Many of us are capable of appreciating the flavor of lots of different soups. And a few of us focus all of our culinary pleasures on one particular type, like one of the characters in the Japanese film Tampopo, who devotes his life spiritually to creating the perfect bowl of ramen noodles. But even as we have our preferences, we can still recognize the qualities that all soups share. And we know that any sort of soup is better when it is made with fresh ingredients, and best, of course, when it is made with love. The Star Wars films and TV shows, comic books, video games, all take place, as you probably already know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And the Force, which is no more specific in title than just the Force, is used by some of the characters in those movies to overcome the limits of their senses and their bodies, to fight each other with laser swords, and to move objects with only the power of their minds. In short, the Force seems to be most useful for doing whatever happens to fall under the category this week of rad stuff. But in the films, the Force is supposed to be more than just an excuse for cool special effects. To quote an expert on the subject, Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Force is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Now, there are some of us who might say that that is a pretty fair description of God, an energy, a force, which unites all beings and can be found within all beings. But whether or not you resonate with the idea of God, or the idea of Star Wars, for that matter, there is something that surrounds us and penetrates us and binds us together at the human, if not the atomic level. That something is meaning. The feeling that who we are and what we are doing with our lives matters. Religion has a lot of rad stuff about it. Grand architecture, beautiful music, stirring poetry. But religion is above all else the work to seek out and make meaning with each other. To know that whatever else is unknown or uncertain, it matters that we are here, now, together. The search for meaning and the meaning that we find and make with one another serves to connect us. But there is still at least one more unifying truth about life here on earth. We are all in this together. In the ancient Hindu cosmology out of which Buddhism originally grew, Indra was the god of rain and thunder and the sky, and the king of all the other gods. And one Buddhist teaching about the interconnectedness of our lives and our fates describes a particular mystical possession of this deity, Indra's net. This is a web of infinitely slender strands with a perfect jewel hanging at each intersection, so vast that it spreads out to cover the dimensions of the universe entirely. Each of these gems is so perfect in its cut and its clarity that in their innumerable facets, the reflections of each other gem can always be seen, so that the entire infinite pattern repeats over and over and over again, infinity upon infinity. Disturb one jewel or just one strand, the entire whole is affected. Nothing is separate. Everything is related. This is what the world is, and the way of our particular places within it. Who and what we are depends on who and what everyone else is. Everything else is. I can only be me because you are you. Our identities are bound up together, and so are our fates. There is a repeated plot, sort of stock plot, in many movies and other sorts of popular stories, where a group of strangers are thrown together by some strange circumstance, often a dangerous one, and they have to work together to preserve their own interests. Most popular stories that match this pattern are horror movies, which says something about how terrified our hyper-individualized society is of having to depend on others in order to survive. We live in an illusion of separateness, that what happens to us affects us alone, and that what happens to everyone else is of no particular concern to us. But there is at least one example of a film in which strangers come together to work for the common good that I can think of that is not a horror movie. And that would be The Breakfast Club, the classic 1980s film about a group of high schoolers in detention on a Saturday who do not like or know each other well, fighting and misbehaving and eventually bonding and cooperating to better understand themselves and serve their shared good. As silly as this might sound, it's a passable metaphor for life here on earth, where we are, all of us, thrown together with people who we do not initially know, by circumstances we rarely understand and never fully control, but from which it is possible to build community and a larger and more complete sense of self, even as we struggle together with the sorrow and adversity that life inevitably brings. We are each a gem in Indra's net, each a not quite fully formed teenager in detention. We are all passengers on the same ship, Earth. What any one of us does or experiences has some effect on each of us. And that, first and before all else, unites us.
I invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering, which sustains and strengthens our community here, and also our outreach offering recipient, who this week is Black Girl Magic. Black Girl Magic is a Madison area nonprofit organization that provides opportunities for Black girls by empowering them to let their natural gifts shine, cultivating leadership skills while centering youth voices in decision-making, and forming a safe and affirming community where girls can authentically and unapologetically be themselves. Its original and signature event is the annual Black Girl Magic Conference, which began in 2018, with programming designed to cultivate confidence in the Black and multiracial girls who participate. Their work has since expanded into monthly programming throughout the year through fitness, mentoring, and peer support, as well as efforts to help local schools address racial disparities in resources and outcomes. There are multiple ways to share your gifts this morning. Baskets are now being passed here in the auditorium for cash or checks, or as you will see on the screen, you can also donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You'll also find our text to give information there as well. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
Each week we gather, carrying in our hearts the joys and losses of our days. We hold our own pain and celebration together with those of the ones we love. We share these here, knowing that they are held gently in care and in support and in love. We light a candle in anticipation of Eid al-Fitr this coming week. This 3-day festival concludes the holy month of Ramadan in the Muslim tradition. We wish all those celebrating nearby and all over the world a very joyful holiday and an Eid Mubarak, a blessed festival. We light a candle for all those who feel isolated by grief, by chronic pain, by mental illness, and all others who are alone and lonely. To you we extend our compassionate hearts. We light a candle of ongoing lament for the violence which plagues our world. Fervently we yearn for peace here at home and around the globe. And we light a candle for all those joys and sorrows, hopes and dreams that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. I invite you now to turn with me, both inward and outward, as we enter together into an attitude of meditation and of prayer with these words of blessing which originate with the Uncompahgre band of the Ute Native American nation. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory. Earth, teach me humility as blossoms are humble with beginning. Earth, teach me caring as the mother who secures her young. Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands alone. Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky. Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall. Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep in the rain. Amen.
Now I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit so we can sing together our closing hymn, number 159, This Is My Song. My
eyes and minds turn now toward the ordinary. Leaving this space made sacred by our presence, take with you at least some seed of understanding, hope, and courage, and drop it into the confusion of the world. Nourish the seed that it might grow as a tree of life-giving shelter to the weary and hope to the despairing. Be yourself a branch of the tree of life. Amen. Blessed be, go in peace, and please be at rest for the postlude.